All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to another edition of the Nolan Show. Right to the right side of me, I got Chris from the What's the Static podcast. You could check that out on I'm pretty sure, almost all platforms. He's got a YouTube channel up. Last Sunday, he went live during the Knicks game. Probably might be doing a live tonight during the fourth quarter of the Knicks game. So we'll keep you posted about that. But yeah, Chris, man, thanks for hopping on. I really appreciate it. But yeah, before we do start, tell me a little bit about the What's the Static pod and how you've been starting that and what's going on with that and the YouTube channel you recently got going. You know, you want to give yourself a little bit of a promo before we get into it?
Yeah, bro. I appreciate you having me on. Definitely great to be on. Been peeping the live show, the Nolan live show for a little bit now. Stood up the What's the Static Pod. Make sure you go follow us on Twitter at the WTS Pod. Our YouTube is also at the WTS Pod, so make sure you go head over and subscribe. Just been seeing you all. Obviously, we got the Mets chat going, seeing you and Shay and Sons do their thing too. So I got started off on Spotify, did a little bit of Spotify episodes, still doing that congruently with the YouTube videos, but looking to do more live streams, like in-game live streams too, like you mentioned over there on the YouTube. So definitely check the channel out and check the Spotify out as well.
Oh yeah,
Appreciate the shout out.
Spotify. Yeah, no problem, man. Anytime, man. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you taking the time to talk about New York on, a lot of sports going on right now, even though the Rangers, unfortunately, they just got their season ended last night. But don't want to talk too much about the negative. Let's talk about the positive. The Knicks, they advanced to the second round just last week against the Cavaliers. Game one, it looked like it was going pretty good in the first half, but in the second half, we kind of fell apart. So tell me about what you thought about game one overall, and what are you looking to change in game two to get us a victory?
Just like you said, man, the Knicks, they went cold. The first half they started off energized, physical. They went on a little bit of a run. I know Spoelstra called the timeout and kind of grouped the Heat together. And I was watching in on what he was saying to the guys, and he was basically saying to his players, like, you know what the Knicks are going to do. They're here to attack in transition. Josh Hart's going to attack in transition. And I felt like the Knicks just in the second half. Obviously, they let the Heat cut the lead down to only 5 to close out the first half, which has always been the Knicks' problem, finishing out a good first half strong. And then in the third quarter, it was the same old third quarter Knicks. I hate to put it that way because they've been playing great, especially in the Cavs series. They only had that slip up in game two. But they just got outmatched on the boards, to be honest with you. And just they weren't hitting the outside shots. So definitely I saw Josh Hart was in the lab on the Knicks Instagram account. He's going to be crucial in terms of hitting the outside shots. Quickly is going to have a huge role tonight. We'll see what happens with Brunson. And then Obi went 4 of 11 from 3, so he had a couple good looks that went in and out as well. So hopefully he can continue to stay aggressive as well. But definitely looking for that a more physical play, a more complete game from the Knicks over here in game 2 tonight.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned Jalen Brunson and Emmanuel quickly. So Brunson listed as doubtful just a few moments ago before we actually started this live. Emmanuel quickly, though, all regular season, when Brunson has been out, he stepped up big time. But in the playoffs so far off the bench, he has kind of been quiet outside of one game where he scored 19 points. So what are you going to look for quickly tonight if he has to step in for Brunson tonight in that starting point guard role?
So, I mean, Brunson, when he was trying to attack the rim last game, the Heat were crashing all four pretty much inside the paint. They were clogging up the paint. Quickly is obviously he's known for his floater, so he's going to get in the paint. I think he's pretty crafty in the paint, but he's going to need to decipher whether that floater is going to be a real deal shot tonight versus him just kicking it out and not forcing up that floater. I know when he got into the game, he kind of forced that floater a couple times. Listen, the Heat are going to clog the paint and they're going to make the Knicks take that outside shot. So whoever's driving, whether it's RJ, whether it's IQ, obviously go in and draw the contact. But if the officiating is anything like last game and they're not calling those fouls, they're going to have to start hitting the outside shots. So we'll see. Quickly needs to stay aggressive. Obviously, like you said, he's been struggling here so far in the playoffs after a tremendous regular season. I think he got beat out just slightly for the Sixth Man of the Year award. Obviously, it was Brogdon from Boston. We can talk about that a little bit if you want, but I thought that was kind of I was comparing their stats side by side. I think Brogdon might have won it fair and square. But anyways, regardless, obviously Quickly's coming up on a contract kind of year, right? They're gonna have to sort of figure out, what the numbers are gonna be for Quickly. But if he can carry us, if Brunson somehow doesn't play today, I was shocked to learn about his ankle injury, especially for him being doubtful. I thought he was just gonna be questionable. He'll give it a go. But I honestly am confident in Quickly. And I think that Quickly shines when the lights are bright. And if he's that guy tonight, I think he's going to get it together.
Yeah, quickly we need him. We really need him. I've been preaching about it too, and I know a lot about Knicks Twitter. They've been preaching about too. So Julius Randle, though, he's also been a guy on the injured list. So what's going on with him? You think he plays despite his ankle injury? What do you think?
You said Julius?
Yeah, Julius Randle.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, but even pregame though, he was dropping some shots in. So what do you think about that? You think he potentially plays tonight? Because we could really use him.
I think he might give it a go. I see his just before we hopped on here, I saw the designation as doubtful as well for Julius Randle. He was looking good though in the pregame in game one. I thought he might give it a go until they just finally ruled him out. If Jimmy Butler doesn't play and they get word that Jimmy Butler's not playing, to be honest with you, might be a bit of a hot take. I might sit Julius Randle again for game two if Jimmy Butler's not playing. If he does go, if Jimmy Butler is playing, Randle's got to play. But obviously, it's hard to speculate how the ankle's feeling. I personally have suffered many ankle injuries just playing basketball all my life. Those are tough, they're nagging. And even when you start to feel right, the next day could wake up really sore and you just kind of just have some second thoughts about it. So I know Julius Randle, he's a workhorse. If it wasn't for that fluke injury, with like 2 weeks left in the regular season, he would have played all 82 for the Knicks. And he plays high minutes. Obviously, Tom Thibodeau doesn't give the guys rest. I know that's the one knock against Thibodeau, but I'm a Thibodeau guy. I'm not here to slander Thibodeau, but yeah, we'll see. I think Julius Randle, I think he could see the floor, but like I said, my take is if Jimmy Butler's not playing tonight, rest him, see how the youngins do. Let Obi get his chance again. Obi scored 18 last game,
Yes,
and
he did.
I really want to see what Obi can produce too. So we'll see. But Julius Randle's presence was missed in game one. That's a fact.
Yeah, the one thing that you mentioned too was Obi Toppin and the 18 points that he provided. So I think that could really help us and give us a bolt. Even if he can't, if Randall's out. But the one thing that I do want to mention that if Randall's out, though, we do lose that backup power forward because Obi Toppin was so crucial off the bench. So the bench points, I'm not sure who's going to be able to provide them now with Quickly and now Josh Hart and Obi Toppin now. Three former bench players now in the starting lineup. So we really need to see Grimes, Hartenstein, and maybe McBride. I know you were talking about a little bit before the show. McBride potentially getting minutes. So, what do you think though with McBride? Because he could really help out the perimeter defense that we really lacked. I feel like in the second half of last game too.
Big Deuce McBride fan. You're talking to probably Deuce McBride's number one fan, bro. Like I remember that road trip that we had out west earlier in the season, and McBride finally got his chance in that OKC game, and he was just all over the place, and he was just causing havoc, got a couple of steals, and I think that's the game when Tom Thibodeau finally realized that he has something in McBride. No matter what the capacity that McBride plays, he's going to go out there. He's going to give you hard minutes, and he's going to guard. He could go out there and guard Jimmy Butler, bro. I'm that confident. Maybe the size probably doesn't line up, but that guy is all heart. Like I would not phase me if he went out there and strapped Jimmy Butler. Like I am that high on Deuce McBride, and I think that it goes over a lot of people's heads, and just because he's been struggling with his shots in the regular season. But in that Cavs series, when he got the minutes, he looked great. So if it's a situation where we need bench production and Jalen Brunson's out, I really hope Quentin Grimes and McBride are up to the task. Quentin Grimes obviously had that 1-3 coming off the bench last game, but really outside of that, maybe a couple of hard Hartenstein minutes, and then Quickly's 9 points off the bench. Outside of those three guys, we got nothing from the bench, so that's gonna have to change in game two if we wanna even the series out.
Yeah, we only had a total of 15 bench points last game. Only three guys on the bench with the short rotation with no Randall. I was even saying let's potentially throw an Evan Fournier in that rotation. That's how desperate we are for threes. But on the defensive side, though, we did not close out, I feel like, a lot. I'm not sure if you noticed that. A lot of shots that the Heat were taking, they were wide open, especially from beyond the arc. one guy himself in the Miami Heat lineup was he shot 5 for 12. Gabe Vincent from 3, 5 of 12 from
He's a
3.
stud.
I thought that was it just can't happen. Especially
He's
in
a
game
stud.
2, you cannot let a guy like that just make 5 threes. So what do you think? What do you think the Knicks defense has to do? What adjustment does Tibbs have to make in order for them to stop the barrage of threes that the Heat were taking?
So it's going to be if Jimmy Butler doesn't play, it's going to be a lot easier to defend the three line, right? Because I saw starting in the second half, they started double teaming Jimmy. And when they double team Jimmy, Jimmy's a guy that can get to the rack whenever he wants. He's going to make the right play, right? So he's going to kick it out as soon as you start double teaming. I think the Knicks were on time with their first rotation on the first kick out, but when it got to the second kick out, Obi Toppin didn't really, he kind of got burned a little bit. I think I saw Obi late on the second rotation twice, and I think it was either Strus or Vincent, or probably even both of them, hit the threes on the second rotation. So even if Butler does play, I wasn't a big fan of them doubling Jimmy Butler in the first game, even when before the injury. But if he's injured and playing, you're definitely not going to double team him now, right? So um, they did get wide open threes. Gabe Vincent and Strus is definitely some guys that you have to watch out for and account for. Obviously, Duncan Robinson, who surprisingly went 0 for 5. Um, but I think the Knicks can weather the storm. I think that's been, especially early on in the season, the Knicks struggled with that 3-point line sort of coverage. But the rotations were lacking in game 1. So if they figure that out and they just don't double team, that's been my biggest issue in that second half. I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, I feel like they don't need to double team too, especially when,
They
you know,
don't.
the guys are playing at a high level because RJ Barrett, there's sometimes he looks like a lost duck out there on defense, but when he actually puts effort in, he's actually a very high grade perimeter defender. So when RJ's playing, like even you saw it in the first round, RJ Barrett was one of our best defenders that whole entire series. So speaking of RJ Barrett,
Shout out
he's
him,
been
right? We got to get him. We got to shout RJ out with his play,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, that's what I was. That's exactly what I was going to lead into. RJ Barrett's been scoring over 23 a game in the playoffs so far, especially is like outside of the first 2 games. He's really turned it on. 26 points on Sunday. So what has he been doing that's impressed you, and what does he need to continue to do in game 2 to impress Knicks fans again?
Attack the basket. RJ Barrett, please attack the basket. The outside shots will start falling. I know he's made a couple threes in that. I think he made 1 3. I think he's 1 for 5 from 3 in game 1. But he doesn't even need to shoot any threes. He does not need to shoot any threes. I'm good on RJ threes. If he wants to take a couple if he's open, by all means do it. But attack the basket. RJ, please. He is phenomenal in his craft and his footwork. He and People love to say he doesn't use his right hand. That's BS. He uses his right hand very well, actually. He's very methodical because he's not the most explosive guy. Obviously, he's up there in stature. He's about 6'9", right? So, he plays more of a small forward type role, type game. Obviously, we have to stick him in as a shooting guard now. I mean, obviously, they're kind of interchangeable, RJ and Hart, but just attack the basket. I love to see when he's aggressive and attacking the basket. And you saw it. He's going to get whacked in that paint, and it's just up to the officials to call it. But if he's attacking, I know the Knicks are going to do great things because as soon as they start worrying about RJ attacking, that's when you dish it out. That's when guys make the 3 ball. And obviously, the 3 ball wasn't falling in game 1. We went 7 of 33 from 3. That's not going to happen tonight. If I had to put money on it, that's not happening tonight. So RJ Barrett's got to stay aggressive. I love his confidence. The foul calls are going to be there. Hopefully, the officiating is up to the task tonight because that was atrocious what they did. I know. Did you see the snippets of Kyle Lowry and what he was doing to RJ when he was driving in the basket?
Oh yeah, he was like holding him down, grabbing his like butt basically. That was a
Taking
little
his
weird.
leg out. Yeah. So RJ, but he's one of those guys that RJ's never gotten those calls, right? I feel like RJ is always frustrated with the officiating, and I don't blame him whatsoever. So just keep attacking RJ. Those shots are going to fall, like you said. He's been scoring the points, and he's been carrying the load without Randall so far. So that's all I got to say about RJ. Shout out him for damn sure.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the stats from last game. Not only did he drop 26 points, he also had 9 rebounds and 7 assists. It was
He was on
probably the
triple double
best he's
watch.
looked. Yeah, it was
He
probably
was
the
on triple
best
double
he's
watch, and
looked.
I didn't realize that until I watched the box score. But I didn't realize he was on triple double watch. But yeah,
Yeah,
it was
he made
legit.
he made one pass to Obi in the corner, and Obi cashed it from the corner of the three, and that was. Actually, I don't think it was even a. Yeah, it was a three. It was a three. I'm thinking it was maybe a mid-range shot, but it was a three, and that's when I was like, "Damn, this is the best game I think I've seen RJ Barrett play in a while." So this playoffs, he has really, really turned it on. So with RJ Barrett turning it on in the playoffs, obviously he struggled offensively in the regular season. Some Knicks fans kind of were very upset with that, including myself. I was like, whoa, what's
Understandable.
going on with RJ? I wasn't to the point where let's trade him and move him, but some Knicks fans were potentially saying, yeah, maybe we should trade him and move him. So what do you think of the trade rumors with RJ Barrett? You think those get put to end if he continues this postseason stretch?
I think they will get put to rest if he keeps playing like this throughout the playoffs and maybe potentially wills us to the Eastern Conference Finals, right?
Oh,
I think
yeah.
the Knicks, I think New York sports Twitter in general, obviously we're gonna get to the Mets here in a second, but the New York sports Twitter in general is very reactionary. I don't blame the naysayers in the regular season whatsoever. He had a good chunk of the season where he just looked lost out there. But the thing is like RJ is the type of guy, he's a two-way player when his offensive game is and he's attacking, right? So, like you mentioned earlier, he's going to play very good defense if he's attacking, he's seeing the ball go in the hoop. Um, the New York Knicks outline moving forward is going to be a really interesting topic. Obviously, we got some contracts to hand out with Hart being a free agent. I don't think we're going to let Hart walk, and then we have quickly that we need to pay as well. RJ got his bag. Mitch Robinson got his bag. Obviously, have Brunson and Randall in the books as well for a few more years. We'll see what happens. I do think the Knicks need to keep exploring the market in terms of getting that third star to New York because I feel like maybe this year is not the window to win a championship. Although this team, if Randall and Brunson on the floor, I have no reason to see why they couldn't make a finals run. And that's maybe not even win the finals, but just get there because the Celtics are looking like they're struggling right now. They obviously lost last night with no Embiid, so we'll see and keep an eye out on that series. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't think that RJ is going to get traded this offseason.
Ah,
I don't think that at all. But you have to sort of start wondering what the trade package would look like with the younger guys on the team if we were to make a move for that star. You know what I mean?
yeah, I feel like that third star would definitely help this team, and if RJ Barrett could even potentially develop into that third star, it could really help this team. But the window right now, it is wide open. Like you said, the Eastern Conference Finals, it's on the table. So I'm not going to try to jinx us or anything. But
No,
if the Knicks do win tonight, do you think we could potentially get there?
yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm fully expecting Boston to turn that around. I think last game, last night the Sixers just shot lights out. Harden obviously had 45. I don't think Harden's going to score 45 again this series. So we'll see what Joel Embiid brings to the table if he suits up this series. I think he will. But I think the Celtics will win that eventually in 6 maybe. Maybe that goes 7. But I like our matchup better with the Celtics in general. I know that might be a little bit of a hot take, but with Embiid on the floor with the Sixers, the Knicks have always had a thing with the Sixers where they just struggle against them. So I'd rather take my chances with Boston, to be honest with you. I know not everyone would agree, but I think that the window is wide open if we take this series from Miami. And by the way, I do think the Knicks would put up a better fight in a series to either of those teams on that side than the Heat would. The Heat are a one-man show. They're a Jimmy Butler show, right? So not to discredit what they did against the Bucks, they got some veteran presence, but I think the Knicks would give a better run at a series in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I think it's wide open. I agree.
Yeah, 100%. And we do got a question from one of the comments. It's actually a pretty funny one.
Sure.
I gotta put it up. It made me laugh. Aaron Rodgers has been courtside at Knicks games. So does Aaron Rodgers' darkness poops have an impact on the New York Knicks' success? What do you think?
Are you talking about when Rodgers was there at Game 1 with
Yeah.
MSG?
You think maybe his like darkness poops maybe potentially brought good vibes, I guess, is what Joey is trying to say. Shout out Joey LaRusso, bro. But what do you think about the darkness poops? Think they maybe
Well,
brought
was
good
it Rodgers
vibes?
or was it Frank the Tank? I don't
Oh
know.
my
They were both in
God.
attendance. So
Frank
I
the
don't know, man.
Tank, he
You know
was
I'm a
at I
Giants
didn't even
fan.
see that.
What was that?
I didn't even see Frank the Tank was there. Where was he sitting? He wasn't courtside, right?
No, he was like
Oh,
maybe I
I was
think
about to
behind one of the
say.
baskets, like 5, 6 rows up, somewhere around there.
Thank
But yeah,
thank the
Aaron
Lord.
Rodgers.
You
I mean,
can't.
I'm not sure if you're getting into the football talk today. If we have time, we can. Obviously, I got the New York Giants. I'm repping the championship Super Bowl shirt. And the Aaron Rodgers discussion is one that I can definitely go on about. But the New York football's on, man. I'm telling you, New York football is going to be good for the next few years. So it's definitely exciting to get those two teams back and relevant, right?
Yeah, 100%. And hopefully Rogers, if Rogers isn't in attendance tonight, I think we could put that debate to end. I think his poop doesn't bring the Knicks success, maybe because he's not there. So let's get into the Mets though, because we're also here for the New York Mets, another blue and orange team that we both like. So the kids are on fire. Francisco Alvarez in his last 10 games hitting 333. He was scorching hot yesterday too in the second game of the doubleheader. Brett Baty in both games of the doubleheader looked very well. He also hit a home run in game one that was ridiculous. Literally a line drive right off the
That
bat.
was a laser. It was a laser.
So now that they're both seeming to get a little bit more playing time from Buck Showalter, since they're, well, let's just face it, scorching hot. The both of them are. They deserve the more playing time that they're getting. So what do you think? What do you think going forward that they can provide for this Mets team?
Play the kids, man. I've been saying it for weeks now. Play the kids. I don't care if they struggle. Obviously, they're not struggling right now. Alvarez had a little bit of a time period where he struggled. Baty's 13 for 39. He's batting 333 in 12 games. His OPS is 919 right now. He's a candidate for me to put in that 5 spot. I know we got a lot of talk about the lineup change and whatnot. I don't like to get into all of that, but if you were to put somebody at the 5 spot outside of McNeil, I think Baty's a good candidate. Francisco Alvarez getting his average up to 225 now. Obviously had the game winning knock. And shout out Amish, man. I'm saying stop playing Nito. I don't need to see Nito in any more starts this year. He's a fine backup catcher. I'd like to see Narvaez backing up Alvarez once we get into the later parts of the season. My big concern is that they might send Alvarez down again when Narvaez gets back. I think
Yeah,
that'd be a
please
huge
don't.
mistake. That's something that I'm dreading. But stop. I think I can go out without seeing a few guys in the roster. Nito's definitely one of them. I won't touch on the others, but the bottom of the order with the kids looks infinitely better than what the bottom of the order looked like last year towards the last stretch of the season. So those kids are going to be providing the spark, and they're going to be providing some protection. To the top of the lineup because it's been all the top of the lineup has been carrying the Mets obviously for the first month of the season. And so it's finally good to get these kids up, get them rolling, and let's see what they can continue to do.
Nito, more like need to go. That's a good one. That's clever. Shout out Josh Renner for viewing the pod today. Always love the viewers, but need to go sounds like a very good one for him because he, like you said, he deserves to be a backup catcher. He's in an unfit role right now, but Francisco Alvarez has really been turning it on. So all Mets fans love to see it. Brett Baty, especially, kind of cementing himself now, I think, as the Mets third baseman, not only of the future, but of the now. So this pitching staff, though, it's been really struggling, though. It's kind of been holding them back. Obviously, it held them back in game one when the Mets posted 8 runs, but the Braves posted 9 runs just to beat us by 1 run. So what's going on with this pitching staff when Scherzer and Verlander and Kodai hopefully potentially step it up? Hopefully they can get back going. But right now, what does this pitching staff need to do to get back on track?
Well, it's the matchup going into that Brave series just looked ugly on paper going in. They had their top guns going with Strider and Freed. And we had 2 spot starters, right? Obviously Denny Reyes starting in game one. He only got through 1 inning, so it's never good to see that in April. Obviously, Quintana started the season on the IL. McGill and Peterson. McGill threw a good game last night. I think for me watching the box score, I was able to tune in game one, but I caught the tail end of game two on the TV. Peterson just got optioned. You got Scherzer on the suspension list right now. He's going to be coming off here soon, and then Justin Verlander's coming back soon too. So the starting pitching has been decimated. Um, I'm not making it a big deal right now. We'll see over the course of the year how it progresses. I'm not confident in the back end of the rotation whatsoever, really, right now. I mean, even when Carrasco comes back, I'm not really sure I want to see him out there on the mound. The Mets are going to have some struggles in the back end of the rotation. Justin Verlander, Scherzer, and Senga. I like what Senga's been producing. I think he needs to limit the walks. The long ball has hurt him as well.
100%. Yeah.
But I think when the pressure of being that sort of 1-2 guy in the rotation, when Justin Verlander comes back, I think Senga can kind of ease into that third rotation type role, third guy role in their rotation, and I think he'll settle down nicely. Obviously, it's always a transition going from the Japanese league, and the new rules now with the MLB with the time, the pitch clock, and everything. So the language barrier adjustments as well for him. So we'll see. I think the starting pitching is not a worry yet. It just hasn't been the strong suit yet. So we'll see.
Yeah, 100%. The pitching, I think we're still getting by with it just because the offense has surprisingly produced. You look at the guys in the lineup, Brett Baty batting 333 just as a whole, not in any like last 5 game stretch. No, straight up as a whole. So that's great to see. 919 OPS. So that's great too. Pete Alonso, obviously, the 11 home runs, mashed another one yesterday. You love to see that. And McNeil, the last 10 games, his stats are insane. A 417 batting average. He's got 15 hits in those 10 games. He's scored 8 times and he's got 4 RBIs. So he's accounted for 12 runs across 10 games. And then Nimmo, not just Nimmo OBP, shout out Nimmo OBP on Twitter, but Nimmo MVP, dude. He's just still raking. But
Yeah.
Lindor, he's been struggling. And same thing with Starlin Marte. So outside of those 2 guys, the Mets lineup, I mean, and Eduardo Escobar when he started the season, obviously, and Tomas Nido. But the lineup has surprisingly carried us to second place in the NL East right now. We're still within 3 games of the Atlanta Braves. So what do you think of this Mets offense, especially now with the kids, as we were talking about before, starting to really mesh together? So what do you think of this offense as a whole?
Well, they're the driving factors, right? In the bottom of the order. I said it, I've been saying it for a while now that the bottom of the order is the Mets' biggest problem outside of obviously the starting rotation pitching struggles like you have up there. Um, Lindor, I saw some games with him last year in the 2 spot that maybe if he keeps struggling, Buck might think about switching that order around. Not sure who you'd bat for just because Lindor and Pete are your power guys, and not really having that third power guy kind of limits you in terms of how you move the lineup around. I think McNeil's a capable hitter out of the 3 spot. Obviously, you're going to be lacking power at the 3 spot, but a contact hitter, batting champ last season, obviously, like you just said, on a heater. So outside of lineup changes, though, obviously the DH position is something we need to figure out as well. I think Vogelbach has been doing a good job over the last few games. He's been getting some base knocks. He's still platooning with Tommy Pham. I'm not the biggest Tommy Pham guy. If you talked to me in the offseason, you would have known that I didn't really understand the whole Tommy Pham situation in terms of why he was our only offensive upgrade. Obviously, we can go back to this whole Correa talk, and I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole mess within itself as well. But the Mets are limited in terms of what they can do with the power. Obviously, they generate runs very well in other ways, um, but the offense has been okay, right? They've been holding their own, and the pitching has really been the ones that haven't been pulling their weight. So obviously, Pete has the 11 homers on the year. I don't want to get into next offseason in terms of getting protection for him in the lineup, but that's something that I really think he'd benefit from. But in terms of this season, I think that the run scoring won't be an issue, especially if the kids keep contributing. And if Buck keeps playing them, I think that's the biggest worry right now for us Mets fans is if Buck finally gets in his head to keep playing the guys, the kids. Um, but yeah, we'll see. I like what I've been seeing. Obviously, we put up 7 runs in the first game, 7, 8, right? 8 runs. Obviously, Escobar hit the solo in the last inning, and then we fought back, and then Alvarez had that go ahead double, 2-run double in the second game. So I think the offense is producing. I'm not worried about that. Nito's a different story. Let's not get into any more Nito. I think Alvarez has been slowly cementing himself into that starting catching role. So
Oh, for sure.
yeah, we'll see what happens. I think the offense keeps rolling though. Obviously, Marte has been coming around as well. He's had a good series against the Braves. He had a couple base knocks there, but Lindor is the guy that we really need to get going because he's the catalyst if you think about it.
Yeah, Lindor only hitting 218 right now. So once he steps it up, this Mets offense will really be complete, especially if
Agreed.
Baty and Alvarez, if this production that they're putting up is sustainable, this Mets offense could be dangerous. And like you said, just the pitching that really needs to get going. The starting pitching is really holding this team back. But the back end of the bullpen, actually, Ottavino and
Yes.
David Robertson, 2 guys who fans have had high expectations for, have both been performing very well, especially David Robertson, who's at first I thought it was going to be Otto as the closer, but maybe it should be Robertson now, replacing Diaz at least for the year. So, what do you think of Robertson? He went 6 innings last night, obviously. So, what do you think of David Robertson just putting up the numbers and basically being a dominant pitcher that he's always been?
I want to recognize Robertson's success when what he's done this season, but it just pains me to know that what we could have had with Robertson and Diaz and Ottavino as our last three guys at the bullpen. Like I don't and it's just an unfortunate situation with what happened to Diaz, obviously in the World Baseball Classic, but David Robertson's been an absolute stud. Like you mentioned, they used him for 6 outs instead of putting Otto in the game. Um, Buck Showalter's been kind of playing around with eighth, ninth inning when the Mets have the lead. Obviously, I think he prefers David Robertson to face the top of the batting order on the other side. And then Ottavino kind of obviously Ottavino's susceptible to the stolen bases, but that slider is just absolutely wicked that Ottavino has. So I don't even what do you have the stats pulled up for Robertson? Because his ERA's got to be very, very low this season.
Oh, I think he's only given up 1 run to be exact.
Yeah.
Let me get him real quick. I can get them.
I think
He's got
I
a
think I
point
remember
six
him.
eight, point six eight
So
ERA.
I mean, his pitches look wicked. Obviously, we have him on a 1 year deal. I think he signed a 1 year for 10 mil. I think it was. So I'm curious what they're gonna do if he keeps performing. If they're gonna bring him back next season, I'd definitely love to bring him back. Otto and David Robertson are both on 1 year deals. So the bullpen's not the issue. They've been taxed all season with the lack of starting pitching in terms of going far into games. So the bullpen's been one of the strong suit. They've been winning. They honestly have been winning the Mets games, to be honest with you, and keeping them in the games in order to sort of win them. So that's not the issue. Like I said, we got to get the starting pitching. We got to get more length out of them. Scherzer's one guy that needs to start producing more in terms of going into the sixth. I'd like to see Senga go into the sixth, but I think Justin Verlander might be that guy. Hopefully, release some pressure. But David Robertson's been a stud, just like to your credit. And then other guys too have been stepping up too. I mean, Jeff Brigham obviously has had a rough go at it over the past couple days. Before that, when he appeared in the Giants series, he started off very well. Nagosick's been a stud in long relief, eating up some innings out of that bullpen as well. Rayleigh's had some good key spots that he's appeared in. Obviously, he's on the IL now, so it's not just those last two guys. Obviously, they kind of headline the bullpen, but I think collectively the Mets bullpen has done a great job all across the board.
Yeah, 100%. And we actually got another question from Amish. Are we giving
Okay.
Pete Alonso a little bit of a pass right now by not talking too much ish, because he did have that little 0 for 19 slump? I will give Amish that. So, what do we think about Pete Alonso so far in the season that he's had? I mean, he does have 11 home runs, so I do gotta point that out to
His
you, Nelson.
Yeah, I looked into Pete's stats just coming, before we got into this live here. His average dipped below 250. He's at 248 right now. Obviously, he's got the 11 home runs. I think Nimmo has the most hits on the team. I think Alonso comes in third, if I'm not mistaken, after McNeil. His OPS is still above 800. And then obviously he's got the 11 home runs with 28 RBIs. So when there's runners on base, I fully expect Pete Alonso to be that guy to drive in runs. I really think we just need to get him some help, man. I mean, how long has it been since the Mets had another power guy outside of Alonso? Like what I mean, Lindor hits 25, 26 home runs a year. Outside of those two guys, if Pete gets some protection, McNeil's not any sort of protection. And when you look at it, no one's afraid of McNeil hitting bombs right behind of Alonso, right? So if you get another power guy and maybe slot McNeil into maybe like the sixth, seventh type spot in the lineup, or maybe even third. Like I said, you could either slot him in at the third if you want to move Lindor up, and then you just play around with that. And the Mets got a lot of options, but in terms of power, we'll see. And I think Pete Alonso struggles a little bit sometimes, but obviously he had an ugly at bat. I think with a key spot in the first game yesterday, and then he hit the home run the next at bat. So I'm not worried about Pete. With runners in scoring position, look at that. He's hitting 333 with 15 RBIs. That's exactly what you'd expect out of him. I think he's going to get a bag too. Steve Cohen's going to make him a Met for life. I sure would hope so, but I see where Amish is coming from. Obviously, he's hit a little bit of a cold streak after he hit the first 10. Obviously, got the home run yesterday, so we'll monitor Pete out of the 4 spot going forward.
Yeah, I mean, Pete in the 4 spot, usually, I mean, last year at least he had his best year out of that 4 spot. But Brandon Nimmo secured leadoff spot. But that 2 hole, like it's been a question among Mets fans who should get it. Starlin Marte was obviously the guy. But now, like you said, maybe move up Lindor. I think that's a great idea. And even Hector was bringing out earlier in our chat that maybe even bat Starlin Marte ninth as like a second leadoff hitter. So, what do you think of that potentially moving Starlin Marte somewhere else in the lineup?
That could work, especially if you got Alvarez and Baty playing. I'm not sure if that works if Nito's playing, really, because I'm not comfortable batting Nito anywhere outside of ninth, to be honest with you. Hopefully, we'll get into a situation if Nito plays where he can just finish out the bottom half of the inning, and then we start at the top with Brandon Nimmo the next inning, and it rolls over that way. But if Alvarez and Baty keep playing, I think that Hector makes a great point. I think you can definitely afford to slot Marte in at the 9 spot and then move up Lindor up to 2 and then McNeil up to 3. McNeil's going to get his hits, right? One way or the other. So if you got a guy coming up that gets on base for Pete consistently, sign me up. Lindor looks better at the 2 spot, and Marte's got is that second leadoff batter, like Hector said. So I would be on board with that. I know Buck is probably too stubborn to make that move, but I would be on board with it for sure.
I'm muted there. My bad, I'm muted there. But yeah, I kind of love the idea of moving Starlin Marte down a little bit in the lineup. I'm not sure Marte has ever played and not hit second since he's been a Met. Yeah, that's I don't think he has. And even Nelson was bringing up earlier this week when we were on the Shane Suns podcast. Shout out those guys. Um, yeah, when we were on their pod, he was bringing up how Marte kind of looks hurt a little bit. What do you think? You think Starlin Marte kind of looks hurt? He has been sluggish running to first base a little bit. And obviously the injuries he sustained last year at the end of the year. And even in spring training, I think he had a little something lingering going on with him. So what do you think of Marte? You think he's banged up right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been playing hurt ever since he got hurt in that Padres series last year, early on in the year. I don't know if you remember that. I think he took a spill going into second base, but I think he's been he doesn't run out like ground balls as hard anymore. I know he's getting up there in age as well. I know he's also tried to steal some bases, but I think he's playing banged up. I think he's a tough guy. He goes out there and plays when he can. In a lot of situations where other guys might not even want to give it a go. So he's definitely has his share of injuries. I think maybe taking that pressure off in the 2 spot. Obviously, he's been coming around as of recent, but if you take a little bit pressure off, maybe get him some more looks at fastballs instead of the off speed in the 9 spot. Maybe it might benefit him, but I'm not worried about Marte really. He's a vet. I think he's dependable, and I think he's going to come around. But do I think he's playing injured? Yes, I think he has been for quite some time now.
Yeah, he definitely looks it. But overall, this Mets top heavy offense that I've been describing it as, I think we can get away with it for now. And especially if Baty and Alvarez continue to rake and Buck continues to put Alvarez in the starting lineup, because that's the thing. As right here, Hector pointed out, Alvarez cannot go back to the minors just because Narvaez comes back if he keeps performing.
Agree.
Yeah, just
Agree.
the past 10 games, 333 batting average. Gotta love that if you're a Mets fan. But flipping from baseball to football, a little bit of a hard turn. So the Giants, man, they had a nice little draft. They not a nice little draft, the big draft. They had a couple big picks. I love the Deontay Banks pick. So before we do get into the whole entire my questions about this Giants roster going into 2023 that I got for you, Deontay Banks, tell me about what the Giants are getting with this pick at cornerback.
He's a stud. He's a physical cornerback. He'll jam you at the line. Obviously, I think his footwork needs a little bit of work. I was talking to somebody the other day that he gets kind of caught, with his hips. In terms of if he does get beat, he needs to play a little bit of catch up there. But you get a guy who I think played all 12 games last season in his senior year. I think he was a 4-year starter. I think one of the years he went down, I think in his sophomore year, he went down with an injury. I think it was his shoulder, but he's a physical guy, good frame, obviously 6'0", 197. I think I was talking about it with you. He has a physical, similar stature to Joey Porter Jr., obviously, who fell out of the first round and who I was projecting the Giants to take. But I like Deontay Banks. He's gonna fit right in. He's gonna go. He's gonna make an immediate impact, and that's the thing that I like is that I think Deontay Banks immediately makes an impact. He's not a projection type guy. He's not a project type guy. He's gonna make an immediate impact, and I think him and Adore are gonna do some good things opposite side of each other.
Yeah, now you got him, Adoree Jackson, Xavier McKinney in that secondary.
Yeah.
Julian Love, how do you think the Giants are going to replace him, though?
I'm not sure. We'll see. I think Dane Belton is a name to sort of keep an eye out on. Dane Belton got some snaps last year. He was a rookie last year, I believe, or the year before that. But he is a very physical guy, the safety spot too. So I think he can complement McKinney. Julian Love was just a very big hit for the Giants because he was a hybrid guy, safety to cornerback. So when Adoree went down, Julian Love kind of slotted in. That's why I'm happy with the cornerback selection. And honestly, it might be a blessing in disguise that the wide receivers were taken. I know I told you on the call a few lives that you did a few lives ago where I think that the Giants wide receiver room, even going before the draft, was serviceable. And I think that they had bigger needs at the cornerback position in terms of depth. So him and Trey Hawkins as well, who's our sixth round pick, both physical corners, and I think that they're going to provide much needed depth. Trey Hawkins may be a little bit more of a project. We'll see how he fits in long term. But Deontay Banks, immediate impact. And Adoree, if he can stay healthy, the Giants secondary has been a strong suit last year and even the year before that. It's just been about getting our offense going. So I like what we're doing on paper. I know you're a big Bobby Okereke guy, the linebacker position. You're talking about him as well. Linebacking position is probably the weakest link of the Giants defense. But you get Aziz back, you get Bobby now in free agency, and things are looking really good on paper. And I just want to shout out the defensive line now. Obviously, you got Dexter Lawrence. We now got Ashawn Robinson coming from the Rams, and then we got Nunez Roches from the Buccaneers. Also, I think signed a 1-year deal as well. So we're shoring up that run game on the interior, obviously to go along with Dexter, because he looked at the interior D line last year when Dexter wasn't playing snaps. Everybody was running all over them. So I like what Joe Shane's doing on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and then you guys also got a center in round two, John Michael Schmidt. So tell me a little bit about him from Minnesota. I know the Giants have needed a center for a while now. So what's
A
what's the word
while.
on him? Do we think he's going to be able to make an immediate impact just like Deontay Banks?
Oh yeah, he's going to be our starting center, no doubt about it. The center position has been a weak link. The interior O line for the Giants has been a weak link for quite some time now. The guards, we'll see what we have out of the guard position. It's been basically plug and play outside of the tackles. We got Evan Neal on the right side. Andrew Thomas, they just picked up his fifth-year option today. Shout out Andrew Thomas out of Georgia on the left side. Those are the two tackles, but it's been plug and play for Brian Dable last year on the interior. We got John Michael Schmitz now out of Minnesota. I think he's going to be our starting center day one. Big guy, big guy. So I like his frame. I like his stature. We'll see what sort of technique he brings. I gotta keep on going back to him and watch some film on him. But um, when you talk about the center position has been lacking for the Giants ever since maybe the last Super Bowl run. It's been a position of need for a while now. So the interior line definitely needed some help, and JMS out of Minnesota is definitely going to help that. So I'm really excited. A little bit surprised he fell to 57. He was honestly, I saw him projected top 40 and he fell to 57. So I think the Giants did their due diligence there and they got a steal there at 57.
Yeah, and then so we already know that they got Darren Waller and the potential impact that he could make with Daniel Jones going into 2023, but they also added Jalen Hyatt in the draft in round 3. So tell me about him. I know that he's a great vertical threat coming out of college. So is he something that this Giants team could really use, and is just like Banks and now the center, is he going to make an immediate impact in your mind?
100%. Shout out Joe Shan. Just want to say that first and foremost. He went and traded up to get his guys. Deontay Banks, he moved in one spot for from 25 to 24. And then for Jalen Hyatt, we were at the 89th pick. He moved up 16 spots to 73 to get Jalen Hyatt. I saw the video of the Dallas one of their recruiters or whatever you want to call it, one of their coaches were kind of questioning Jalen Hyatt on his route running. But the biggest thing that the Giants have been lacking outside at the wide receiver group has been separation. Kenny Galladay was slotted to be that guy to get that separation and be the wide receiver one. Do I think Jalen Hyatt's going to be a wide receiver one immediately out of in the third round? No, I don't think so. But if he is able to get that separation, the route running and the footwork will come. And I think he's going to make an impact this season. Yes, I'm still looking at Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton to get more production. Obviously, Waller and Bellinger at the tight end spots. And then we got the vets. Now the thing is that now that we drafted Jalen Hyatt, the wide receiver room with the free agent signings of the vets gets a little bit crowded, right? We got Wandale, Sterling. We got about 7, 8 different guys I can name you right now. So I want to see who cracks the roster in the opening game of the season. But the the potential is limitless for Jalen Hyatt. I'm excited. I was watching his pre-draft sort of interviews. It seemed like he wanted to be a New York Giant. I think the Giants sensed that, so they moved up and got their guy, man. So I'm really happy what the front office has been doing, and I think they killed this draft. I think they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, they definitely had one of the best drafts out of all the teams in the NFL. And then one guy that I want to ask you about last about the out of the Giants draft picks before I do get into Daniel Jones and
Mm,
his 2023 hopeful progress. In the fifth round, they potentially drafted Saquon's replacement. Is what do we
yeah.
think about that?
I'd like to think that they wouldn't take a fifth rounder to be Saquon's replacement. Obviously, I know they're a couple of $1 million off on a potential agreement. Eric Gray, I think, got a lot of unnecessary hate on Giants Twitter just because of the Saquon situation. I think he's capable. I haven't watched too much tape, but I saw some good things when I replayed some Giants content creators sort of analysis on him. We got Saquon. Obviously, he's not happy with the franchise tag situation. He wants a contract. I don't blame him. The running back just market is just absolutely unreal. And it's really not fair to those guys when you compare maybe like wide receiver money that these receivers are getting. But we got Saquon now. We got Breida. We brought Breida back on a 1-year deal. He's a vet, runs hard, provided the Giants some production when Saquon was on the sidelines, maybe taking a snap off. So we'll see how Eric Gray fits into the mold. Obviously, when you have more depth at the running back position, more options, especially if guys go down, that'll be just plugging him in there, and that situation would be great. I want to slow the roll on the Saquon replacement talk. I know that it could be a realistic option if the Giants somehow don't find a middle ground with Saquon. Obviously, the front office has some stuff to figure out. Dave Gettleman didn't really leave Joe Shane the best cap space in terms of the best situation with cap space. So we'll see how that turns out with Eric Gray. I like the pick. I think he can be good at the next level. But we'll see. I'm gonna slow my roll in the Saquon replacement talk. We'll see. But before we
Yeah.
get into, I know you said Eric Gray. I want to shout out. I'm not sure if you're gonna bring it up, but I want to shout out one guy that I saw. We brought him in the undrafted free agent market, and I'm not sure if you're gonna segue into that. But his name is Bryce Ford Wheaton. Now he's out of West Virginia, right? And nobody really thinks of any sort of undrafted free agents of making an immediate impact in terms of cracking the actual roster come opening week. But he's a 6'4" wide receiver that runs a sub 4.4. So you don't find that everywhere. I know he's got some polishing to do, but his metrics looked really good, and I'm waiting for some tape to come out on him. But I just want to make sure that everyone's aware and everyone keeps an eye out and pays attention to the name Bryce Ford Wheaton, because just looking at the metrics of it, I want to see what he can do, and I'll have my eyes on him going forward.
Yeah, that definitely sounds interesting. I didn't hear of him yet, but 100% sounds interesting. A 6'4" guy with that type of tangibles. But yeah, outside of the draft though, Daniel Jones obviously got a big contract. So what do you expect to see out of him in 2023 now that he's got the big dollars and hopefully an improved offensive line and an improved receiving room?
Well, before I answer, I want to know what you think about Daniel Jones, James. I want to hear your thoughts. I know you're split on the Jets Giants territory here. I want to hear about what you have to say. I'm a big Daniel Jones guy. I've caught flack for it, being in this, I'm in Commanders territory right now. I've caught, some Daniel Jones slander from all my buddies, but I want to hear what you think. You think he's that guy? You think he deserved the contract? And what do you think?
I think the contract fits because at the end of the day, if he does play 4 years, that means he earned that deal. That means he turned into the guy that the Giants organization thinks he can be. So I think that's a win-win contract. Um, Looking back on it, like right away, like 4 years, like and then all the money that he got, yeah, it's an eyeballing like move, but at the same time, you look at the actual details. I'm pretty sure it's only like a 19 mil cap hit this year. It's nothing crazy. And I think right now you could probably put him in that like top 15, probably like 15th, right at 15th for me, I'd say. Maybe he takes a step up to like 12 now, I'd say, going into next season. But I think he has the potential to take that step into that top 10, top 8 range potentially, depending on what these guys can offer him. Because you saw it last year, what he was able to do with basically nothing on the wide receiver end. I mean, yes, Saquon added a lot. And the offensive line, it wasn't that great either. He kind of bailed himself out with his legs a lot. So I
Yeah.
think if he can just get more weapons and get more help, he can kind of be elevated. Like if Kirk Cousins can look like a top 10 quarterback, Daniel Jones with the athleticism that he has, he can definitely look like a top 10 quarterback. So I think it's just for him, it's just the guys around him. You put a team around him and see what he can do. And maybe he can play into that contract. Because worst case, if he sucks, then 2 years, you cut him and he's not a crazy cap hit or anything like that. You don't have to pay anything in penalties. But best case, he's the guy that Giants fans and the Giants organization, Brian Daboll and Joe Shane, they think that he can turn into that guy. So hopefully in 2023 he can show it because 9 wins, if he can take a jump into like 10 or 11 wins and throw for over 3,500 or 3,800 yards, and with his legs, you already know he's going to give you 500 to 700 rushing yards. So he's going to produce a lot.
I agree. And we'll see how big of a leap he takes from last season. I think obviously the Giants declined his fifth year option at the start of last season. Maybe they, regretted that, but I don't think they did. I think it motivated him. I just want to shout Daniel Jones out. Obviously, playing in the New York market, he's handled himself like a true pro. He's faced all the slander. Some was warranted with the turnovers, some not because of the intangible factors of his offensive line shuffling, the lack of help, I should say, on the offensive side of the ball with the weapons. Um, and then the coaching staff, really. How many coaches has he played under? How many coordinators has he played under? I think a lot of stuff has been against Daniel Jones that hasn't been under his control, but he's handled the media, he's handled the criticism, he's handled the fan base like a true pro. Um, I do agree that the contract was a safe contract, right? You can get out after 2 years if he doesn't take the leap that you think he will. But if he does and he turns into that top 10, top 8 quarterback, like you said, I think he's closer to top 10 than he is top 15. I think he's maybe top 12 right now. I'd probably comfortably say top 12. I know maybe some people might disagree, and that's okay. It's all subjective here. But yeah, he's going to take a leap. I just want to see in terms of just how, like I said, the Giants record. He obviously won the Giants a lot of games last season, and that in those 9 games with his legs, he produced a lot with his legs. And I think Mike Kafka has infinite more options with him being that dual threat quarterback that no one really expected him to be when he came into the league, right? Like where did Danny Legs come from, right? Like I didn't see any tape from Duke, maybe here and there flashes, but to post 600, 700 rushing yards? Nah, man. Nah, man. I think Daniel Jones takes that leap. I'm happy he's back. The quarterback market is what it is. Dak Prescott got what, 45 M's?
Yeah,
I think Daniel Jones is better
crazy.
than Dak Prescott. Really, I think he outperformed Dak Prescott last season. I don't think that's a an out there sort of take. So
Give him
it's only
two
fair
top.
Daniel Jones got the market value. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's even a hot take. I mean, you give Daniel Jones two top running backs. Say what you want about Zeke, but Zeke is, I mean, he's a above average running back. Obviously, Tony Pollard is a top, probably top 10, top 15 running back, even though there's a lot of great running backs in this league. So it's kind of hard to rank them off the top of my head. And then you obviously had CeeDee Lamb too, number one guy. So, yeah, I mean, and then the O-line that they had too, it was just ridiculous.
Exactly.
So,
And he had Amari Cooper there too. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
he
so
did, and he barely did anything with him. They can't get the job done in the playoffs. And Daniel Jones, I mean, granted, it's the Minnesota Vikings defense, but in the first game in his
huge.
playoff career, he looked like Eli Manning. And then Eli Manning with legs too. So, and the
Exactly.
Vikings were, what were they, 13-4? So that's a very good
Yeah.
NFC team. So the Giants
Yeah.
right now, I think they like, obviously you got, I was talking about it actually on the phone with you a couple of weeks ago. You got the Niners, you got the Eagles, and then after that, it's kind of wide open in the NFC. So maybe the Giants can kind of swoop in if Daniel Jones can take that major leap forward. And like Amish said,
Agree.
he can graduate from mid to good. Because, yeah, I do think you cannot call Daniel Jones great yet, no 100%.
No.
You can call him
Yeah.
mid, but you can't call him bad. You can't call him terrible. You can't call him anything else. He's kind of, I think he's a proven starting quarterback in this league with more to prove. And I think that's the exciting part because he's got more to prove and he's already showed so much. So, and he's a
Agree.
leader. And he's a leader. So that's a great
That's
trait to
that's the
have,
big
too.
thing. He's a leader, and they love him in that locker room, man. They love that. That's a huge. He has the team around him, which is huge.
Yeah, and then the one last thing I do want to ask you about this Giants team, Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka and Wink Martindale, they obviously brought a lot. Wink and Kafka staying put with the Giants, that's going to be huge for them in my opinion. But what do you
Yep.
think about the coaching staff and Brian Daboll especially, and not just Daboll, but Joe Shane with the draft that he had and the job that those two guys have really done as a package deal from Buffalo? What do you think that they've done for this franchise?
Well, I just wanted to shout them out too because they obviously came in a package deal from Buffalo, but they didn't want to bring a whole coaching staff and a whole entourage with them. They didn't really have any ties to Wink Martindale, and they brought Wink Martindale in, and they just figured it out. They gelled, and that's one thing that they wanted to stress. They didn't want to bring a whole entourage of guys from the Bills and make the Giants the Bills 2.0. They wanted to find quality candidates that they did their research on prior and bring them in and get the job done. And that's exactly what they did. Um, who would have thought the Giants would have ever been in the playoffs, been even close to the playoffs, even won a playoff game going into last season? I think that's just a testament to what Brian Daboll has brought to the organization, his leadership. And then obviously Joe Shane, they work hand in hand. I love their little post game handshakes whenever the Giants get the dub. Joe Shane gives Brian Dable a little bald head rub going back into the tunnel. So they got some good stuff going on over there. I really feel like that just like it extends past the locker room. I feel like the guys actually believe in the front office now. I feel like, they can play hard for guys in the front office and, the coaching staff that believe in them and want to see them do well. And I think just the whole vibe of the franchise is complete 180 to where, to what Dave Gettleman was bringing, just in terms of not even just like the roster construction, but just the overall vibe of it. So New York football, I just want to shout. I'm not sure if you're going to talk about the Jets, but shout out the Jets. They're doing some great things on paper over there. But I think the Giants' culture has changed and shifted, and everyone likes to talk about culture, right? Every coach wants to preach culture. Joe Judge preached culture. Didn't end up that way, right? It didn't end up
Yeah,
that way. So Brian
that did
Dable
not.
emphasized culture, and he meant what he said. So they're getting the job done, man. Shout out them.
Yeah, Joe Judge. Jesus, you mentioned him. I was so happy that the Giants don't have to deal with that anymore. And like you said, both New York teams doing well now, so it's like a little bit of a competition. I think it's both like it's great for both teams when both teams are good because now the Giants have the Jets where they're like, we gotta outdo the Jets. We gotta outdo the Jets, and the Jets are like, well, we gotta outdo the Giants. They just made the playoffs. We gotta go out there and get Aaron Rodgers. So it's great. It's literally like just like when like businesses, you have like a business, the competitiveness isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just drives everybody to try to put out better stuff, and it's just better for everybody as a whole. So I mean, unfortunately there's always one Super Bowl winner at the end of the day, but whether or not, if I'm still going to a Giants parade, I know I went back in 2011. I didn't wear any Giants gear, but I still went. It was kind of fun. But
Shout out you supporting them though. It's a good sight to see, and I know there's a lot of Jets and Giants animosity on Twitter between the fan bases, everyone trying to outdo each other, but it hasn't been a rivalry. The NFL might try to make it into a rivalry going forward. I think that's another topic that we can get into some other day, but that might be good. Maybe equate that to the Subway Series with the Mets Yankees. Shout out Amish and Josh. We were having that sort of discussion on some spaces last night, but I don't know. I don't think it's never been a rivalry, so I don't know why people are treating it like that all of a sudden. But I think that's just a testament of both teams actually having a fighting chance now. So
yeah, it would be pretty cool if they kind of made something out of it, maybe like the like in a regular season game. But I don't think it's necessarily like a rivalry like the Mets and Yankees have. But
yeah,
yo, Chris, man, thanks for coming on, man. We shot it for over
always.
an hour. My bad, it went a little bit over, but yo, thanks,
You're
man,
good,
for
man.
coming on. I really appreciate it. And before I do let you go, is there anything you want to plug in before I let you off?
No, like I said, just follow the channel. I got some good stuff going on. The Twitter at the WTS Pod, the YouTube same handle. What's the Static Pod on Spotify? I got all my links on my Twitter. If you click the link in the bio, I'm just sort of looking to continue to grow. Seeing where it progresses. I'm gonna do some more live streams. Shout out Amish, did some content with him. Shout out Shane Sons. Go follow them over there as well. So appreciate being accepted into the community. The support has been great. And thank you for having me on. We had a great discussion today. We covered some great topics. And, if you ever want to do it again, run it back, you let me know.
Yeah, 100%. I'd love to have you back on. Yeah, man, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. And yeah, if we get that live going tonight, I'll definitely pop in.
All right, I'll get that set up. Let's go, Knicks.
Yes, sir. We got to get that win tonight, and hopefully Lucchese can get us one too. But mainly the Knicks. But thanks for popping on, man.
For sure. Definitely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, man. I'll see you later. All right, that's Chris from the What's the Static podcast. Same thing, a lot of New York sports content. Knicks live the other night. Make sure you check that out. He had a lot of good points, a lot of good live reaction as well. Let me fix my cam right now. But yeah, I'm going to take a quick break here, and then I'm going to get right back into it. So, of course, enjoy. Yes, sir. Yes, Amish. Let's go, Knicks. We need that big win tonight. We do need that big win tonight. Hopefully, Jalen Brunson is healthy because we could really use him. But if not, like Chris was pointing out, we still do got some dogs. We got Obi Toppin who dropped 18, and Emmanuel quickly, maybe he needs a start or something to get him going. Maybe that's what he needs to jolt him forward. But let's take a quick break, and then I'll pop in right back and finish it up with a quick little Yankee segment. And even after Ohtani, what do you think? What do you think about Steve Cohen as a whole? Like, you think this guy? What do you think he did for this Mets franchise so far?
Yeah, I think starting with the first half of the question, Otani's certainly on the table. The biggest barrier in the Mets' way from them landing him isn't dollars, but it really is just preference. If Otani still has the same preference that he had entering the MLB, which is West Coast, then the likelihood of him landing with the Mets isn't as strong as, say, the Dodgers, who, while the Dodgers might not be able to put up the highest dollar for Otani the way that the Mets would, it wouldn't be shocking if Otani, say, took a slight pay cut from the Dodgers versus what the Mets offer would be. They weren't drastically different to stay in LA, that area, to be with the Dodgers and be on a championship winning type organization still. So that is the biggest hurdle in landing him. But rest assured, we've all known by now that when Cohen has his eyes set on someone, he's going to do everything physically and humanly possible to acquire them. And, I don't expect a Carlos Correa, broken ankle type situation 2.0 here with Otani. So rest assured, if the interest is there, which we all know it is, the Mets will at minimum do their due diligence and give a valiant effort in landing him. And should they not, especially, then you look at the Manny Machado. I think either way, the Mets are in a strong position to land one of the top free agents next year. It's just a matter of if it's going to be the best player in baseball, or is it going to be one of the best third basemen in the game? So, yeah, we'll discuss that more as we get closer to the trade deadline, depending on where the Angels are at and things of that nature. But, yeah, they will certainly be involved. And to answer the second part, yeah, Cohen, everything that I say, by now, right? He's just done an amazing job as Mets owner over the past couple of years. Had the privilege of meeting him a couple months ago, back in early January at a Mets event, and he was just, exactly what you would expect him to be. I mean, just the fact that he goes so out of his way constantly to interact with fans, people, media, just really showing that the only difference between you and I and Cohen is the dollars on our net worth. Aside from that, the same interest level is there when it comes to being a diehard true Mets fan. That is what was the focal point in him buying the team in the first place. It wasn't because of this being a superior investment long term. No, it's because he wants to bring championships to Queens as a desperate fan, and I don't blame him. I would do the exact same thing if I had the money to back it and if I were in his shoes. So everything he's done from top down, not only in the organization with the amount of funding for the roster, which is right around double more that he spent on guaranteed contracts alone since he became an owner, which is around $1.4 billion than the next closest owner in baseball over the past couple of years, which is Steinbrenner of the Yankees, around $880 million. Aside from investing a record amount of dollars over that period of time with on-field product, it's off the field. It's with the coaching staff with Showalter, Epler, the hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars that he's also spending in the analytics department, which is something that the Mets didn't even have when Cohen became owner. It's from the smallest things to the biggest things, to the medical staff. I mean, everything and everyone that is currently a part of the Mets organization is making this look night and day from what it was just a couple years ago. And it just shows you that, having a lot of money certainly helps, but knowing how to properly allocate it into every single area of need and just to give you superiority over the next club as a rival, either in the division or just going for a championship as a whole, will certainly help do wonders for a team. And that is the case with Cohen and these New York Mets. Beyond grateful to have him at
the Wardy commercial, baby. Yes, sir. Shout out Wardy New York Mets for popping on that pod. Make sure you go check that episode out if you want over in the I'll pop it in the link to the description later on. But shout out Chris for popping on. I'm also going to pop in his socials in the link to the description a little bit later when I pop off this thing. But before I do pop off, let me talk about the New York Yankees and the fact that they suck, and I love every single second of it. They are 3-7 in their last 10 games. Aaron Judge is on the IL. Life could not be better. Woo! Life couldn't be better when the Yankees suck. But for real, the Yankees do got a lot of problems. When you look at their roster and you look at their lineup, especially without Aaron Judge now for probably not a while. He's only on the 10-day IL, but they don't have Stanton, obviously, in the lineup for another 6 weeks. Anthony Rizzo is kind of cooling off. Anthony Volpe hasn't been what Yankees fans expected him to be. So Aaron Boone kind of doesn't even really have a lot of options to go to. Because when you look at, like I said, look at the Yankees lineup. What's the strength right now, especially without Aaron Judge? This lineup was carried by Aaron Judge last year. And when they did, even without Aaron Judge, they also had guys like Matt Carpenter who were pulling weight here and there. Now they don't have nobody. They have nobody. Jose Trevino isn't anything special. Kyle Higashioka, big whoop. And then obviously going into the year, they built around a rotation. They bring in Rodon to join Garrett Cole. They bring in, I hate to kill, but who cares? At least the Mets still have almost a winning record. The Yankees are about to be 500 after tonight, and they lost 15-2. But yeah, shout out Jared of the Mets way. Also, he's got the Just End of the Suffering pod, so make sure you check out his Jets content as well. New York baseball is in a slump right now. It is. We're in a stinky doo-doo slump. That's what we are in. It's just a big pile of crap, and it smells like my dog's anus. That's what it smells like. But for real, Aaron Judge is the center of this Yankees lineup. That's why I think it's kind of more alarming than the Mets, because the Mets, at least they have guys like Brett Baty popping off, Francisco Alvarez pulling weight now. It's really just their starting rotation. Once that comes back to earth, the Mets should be able to take off. They've been surviving it, but the Yankees, they haven't been surviving. They've been just getting defeated. So much so that they lost 15-2 the other night, 3-2 last night. Their offense is flat. It's stale. There's no other better way to put it. And especially without Aaron Judge. Judge carries the lineup. I could say time and time again because that's just how it goes with this Yankees lineup. And then the rotation, Rodon obviously going down with the injury, never pitched in over 180 innings. You look at Severino, he went down with the injury too. So now you're dependent on Garrett Cole and expecting Nestor Cortez to replicate last season, but it's looking like he can't replicate it just yet. So he's having struggles. So this whole entire Yankees team just sucks. And Dimitri popped a comment in earlier that Clay Holmes just sucks. So he's the worst closer in the MLB, and that very well could be true. No, but the Yankees, and if you want to point it out to Aaron Boone and say Aaron Boone's the problem, he's really not, because who can he throw in the lineup? Can you play the kids more? He's playing Oswaldo Cabrera and Anthony Volpe as much as he can. And there's moves that are being made that some people are being said that it's made by the upstairs, the analytical department that the Yankees love. But really, I'm just looking at this Yankees team, and I think it was failure from the jump. They're dependent upon Aaron Judge and a pitching rotation that has injury history with Carlos Rodon, who, like I said, never pitched in over 180 innings in his entire career in the MLB. He's a great pitcher when healthy, but he's rarely healthy, just like Jacob deGrom. But I always had to throw a little deGrom shade in there. Just had to throw it in there. He's dominant when he's healthy, though. deGrom, he's striking out guys left and right. He let up a home run here and there now because he throws so hard, but he makes he still makes guys look stupid, but not making it a deGrom show. But Rodon, once he comes back, hopefully this Yankees team can take off. But, Joel Sherman had a great thing on the MLB Network today where he was pinpointing out, and even Jared has pointed out to me on the Mets way a lot, that the Washington Nationals, they came out of nowhere in 2019. The Atlanta Braves, when they won the World Series, they kind of came out of nowhere. And the Philadelphia Phillies, just last year, it was Mets and the Braves basically beating the crap out of each other all year. And then when we were both just dead and tired, the Phillies were like, all right, boom. They just hopped right over us. Perfect time. All right, you guys are both dead. We're hot at the right time. Literally, that's like the best way to compare it, like a triple threat match in the WWE, and somebody just sits outside the ring while the other two beat the crap out of each other. And Randy Orton comes in and RKO's John Cena and wins the championship belt or something. I don't know, throwing it back to the old days. But that's literally what happened with the Phillies and the Braves and the Mets last year. So it's not like the Yankees are dead, but they just can't get too dead. I think that's what could scare Yankees fans. So they got to figure something out. They got to have someone step up, whether it's Anthony Rizzo, whether it's Anthony Volpe, he could start to click a little bit, or maybe Garrett Cole can just carry them somehow, or Nestor Cortez. He's got to get back to his old self from last year. That's a big thing. And then the bullpen, obviously, too. But really, it's the offense. The offense is stale. The bottom of the order sucks. DJ LeMahieu, he's been cooling off. He's hitting in the 260s now. Obviously, Rizzo, he's dropped below 300 now. So this Yankees team has a lot of question marks, and they need to get answers quick. But at the end of the day, like I said, with what has happened recently in the MLB, you're never really out. You're never really out until probably June or July. So the Yankees, they just got to stay afloat, stay within, let's say, like 8 games. I don't know. Stay within 8 games of the Rays. That's doable. That is more than doable. And if they can't do that, then maybe they suck. I don't know. But they should still be able to get to the playoffs. I don't think we can just view this team as a non-playoff team yet. We still need to see what happens when Rodon comes back, because we know when Bryce Harper, he not carry the Phillies last year, but you even saw it with the 2015 New York Mets. When Cespedes coming in at the trade deadline, carries the Mets, and they make the World Series. So maybe when Rodon comes back, or when Stanton and Judge do come back off the IL, they big tear. I mean, we saw David Wright with the Mets. Every time he came back off the injured list, he was a beast. So maybe once those guys come back, it's kind of like an addition to this team. It's a spark to this team. Hopefully it can lift them. But until that happens, they need someone like DJ LeMahieu to get going, Anthony Rizzo to get going again, Anthony Volpe, he's got to start to lift it up. Gleyber Torres, He's got to start to lift it up again. You also got Oswaldo Cabrera. Like, he's shown flashes of being a very good. He's a good hitter when he's on his best, but I don't know. He's kind of in a slump right now. He kind of hit a little bit of a slump. Defensively, he's always great. Obviously, he can play anywhere, but offensively, that's always been like what's held him back. So he could be a guy that needs to step it up too. It's next man up mentality right now for the New York Yankees, and that's what they got to do. That's all they got to do. But I was gonna talk Jets, but I got to get back to work by 3:30, so I'm gonna pop off this live. Thanks, Chris, for coming on. Make sure you check out the What's the Static pod. He's got a good thing going on over there. A lot of New York sports. He'll probably be live tonight in the fourth quarter. I'll probably be joining him during the Knicks game. Hopefully the Knicks can win tonight, even with Jalen Brunson probably out and Julius Randle probably out. And hopefully Jimmy Butler's out. And the Knicks, the bench, the kids, they can take over. Expect Deuce McBride, maybe Chris's guy, Deuce. Shout out Amish Country Mets. We were popping on the Shay and Sons pod just this week. Their episode came out. Shout out Jared too. Shout out Jared. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. I don't know his exact Twitter handle right now, but Just End the Suffering pod. It's going to be starting back up. I can't wait to hear what the Aaron Rodgers takes. It's not really Just End the Suffering now. It's just start the shining. I don't know. I'm stupid right now. I'm trying to think of something like that. But yeah, dude, the Jets, when I start talking about them tomorrow or maybe Thursday or maybe tonight after the Knicks game, I don't know, but it's gonna be fun because Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson were throwing the ball the other day and it looked very, 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 very good. And Alan Lazard's hat the other day on Sunday at the Knicks game, it was fire. I'm not a Yankees fan, but that Jets Yankees collab, that shit was heat. I need to get one of those. Actually, I can never wear Yankees stuff. I can't. But hopefully the Yankees can get it going. Joey Lucchesi on the mound tonight. And the Knicks, obviously. Sorry, Rangers fans, but if you're a Devils fan, you love that. Brian, you're happy. Knicks, please don't go down 2-0. Please don't go down 2-0. Like that would, and then they don't play till Saturday. Oh, it would give us a heart attack. I don't want to have to be thinking. I don't want to be stressed out all till Saturday. So, Knicks, please win tonight. Not just because you need to win, but for the fan sanity. Thank you. I'm out.